Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source of common-sense commentary on salient current events. The 2024 Olympics in Paris, France has now concluded. As always, the 2 weeks breezes right by. But, at least with streaming, you can catch all the competitions that you did not catch live, or watch sports that do not always make the main broadcast. The two weeks of the Olympics is the culmination of all the hard work and sacrifice athletes around the world make for the slightest possibility that they will be able to stand atop the podium to hear their national anthem play for them. During the build-up for the Games, I listened to past American gold medalists and heard about how the preparation is not just a few weeks, a few months, or a year. It is really a full 4-year cycle of competitions and training to get yourself ready to compete against the best in the world. I admire all the athletes that compete at the Games, regardless of the outcomes, but I would be dishonest to say that I root solely for Team USA and no one else, even if I am a fan of a player who plays for another nation. During these 2 weeks, I suspend or pause my fandom. In this special episode, I'm going to give my thoughts on another dominant performance by Team USA, why Americans want to win gold and the overall medal count, and I have some thoughts on future Olympic Games. I close with a discussion on the economic reality of the Olympics. Let us continue with this special episode. Americans want to be the best. We want the best for our society, and never want to settle for second or third. Like the movie Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell, if you are not first, you're last, even though second or third still is a good outcome in the Olympics. I listened to a lecture discussing how America views success in sports much differently than the rest of the world. The lecture was about branding strategy, and we discussed how there is a major difference in brand power and opportunity for a gold medalist compared to that of a silver medalist and bronze medalist, the gaps being perceivably larger here than elsewhere. The professor was from Eastern Europe, where his position was that while gold is still a bigger draw everywhere, the interest in celebrating any medalist was still there. Silver and bronze medalists were still treated like celebrities, but you do not see that in America as much. For instance, the promotional opportunities for a gold medalist is significantly higher than any other medalists, when considering Olympic sports versus league sports that are played at the Olympics. People are more likely to attend speeches by a gold medalist, who beat everyone in their field, versus another person who was good, but 1 or 2 people were better in the competition than they were. One point of view could be that the gold medalist is the best in the world at that time or during that competition, but may not always be the best overall athlete in that sport, who may have not performed up to their potential or ability. Sometimes the best athletes stumble, contract COVID, or have a bad day and someone else rises to the occasion. That does not diminish the person who actually won. We all know that the best teams in sports do not always win the championship. Upsets happen. Injuries happen, performance matters, and that is why you play the games, the competitions, the races, or the contests. We still are interested in seeing how they stepped up to answer when opportunity knocked and others did not. There are still brand opportunities for silver and bronze medalists in America, especially now in the content age, but the gold medalists will see their opportunities more upfront, and without the need to qualify to the audience. Generally, people remember what national anthem they heard and who won the gold. Other than enthusiasts for a particular sport, I am not sure who could list the top 3 in any Olympics by the athlete's name. Beyond the branding aspects, I do believe that America wants to be the best in the world at everything, and they should want that. There is no just being another cog in the system here, another team or body in an environment. Americans want others to see the red, white, and blue, and understand that we mean business and are there to win. Every nation wants their athletes to perform well and bring athletic glory to their nation, but in reality, there is the United States, China, and maybe Russia that actually win consistently. So many nations are satisfied with a good effort or that they made any podium sport. If they get silver or bronze, then it is a good outcome and should be celebrated. Americans do not completely equivocate all being equal and ignore the difference between winning and coming close. Sure, we do appreciate that these athletes accomplished a great achievement. It is hard to medal at any level in many of the tournaments. We cannot take it for granted. But, for silver medalists and bronze medalists, we always wonder what they can do to become gold medalists in 4 years. Because we want to hear our Star-Spangled Banner play again and again and again. I do not think having high standards and expectations to be the best in the world is a bad thing. I acknowledge that it can put enormous pressure on athletes and can lead to mental health issues. But pressure also creates diamonds. And I always like the sentiment that if there is pressure to perform as a privilege, because you are thought of being good enough to be associated with such an achievement. I think every American, whether an athlete or not, should set high standards and expectations for themselves to push them to achieve them. We see the problems in our society when we continually lower standards and expect very little from people with great potential. We want Team USA to win the most medals, the most gold medals, the most silver medals, and the most bronze. I believe any nation would like that, but only the few actually contend for it. Pretty much the United States, China, and Russia when they are allowed to compete. There is nothing wrong with setting your sights on rising to the top of the mountain. Work to be the best, then work to be better than your best each and every day. I believe that Americans have every reason to be extremely proud of Team USA. Team USA will bring home the most overall medals once again by a large margin. They ended in a tie with China for the most gold medals. Both leave with 40. And Team USA will bring home the most silver and bronze medals as well. I believe that it was another dominant performance, but I believe we all feel that we did leave some meat on the bone. There were some events where Americans were favored, and we simply made a mistake that cost us a gold, or contracted COVID in a race that our runner could have potentially won gold. Potentially. But that is the case every Olympics. Some athletes may be favored, but their Olympic glory has to wait another 4 years. Other athletes, like our rowing team, will bring home a medal for the first time in nearly 5 or 6 decades. I believe that medal was gold. In this Olympics, the big theme will probably be redemption. Simone Biles experienced great mental adversity that derailed her performance in Tokyo. She came all the way back and left Paris with a spot amongst the greatest to ever do it. How about our new soccer coach in Emma Hayes, who wins gold in her first few weeks or months on the job? That is a great start for the new manager of the U.S. women's national team, who won their first gold medal since 2012. Important feat as this is a new team. The legends are gone following a highly disappointing showing at the last Women's World Cup. The basketball teams both did what they were predicted to. While some want to try to say the world has caught up, I think the world has become more competitive and we can no longer breeze through the field. But I think Team USA is still the cream of the crop. Surprisingly, it was the women's team that played a more dramatic game than the men's, who had their drama in the semifinals against Joker and Serbia. They won the Olympic, tying 40th gold in the final seconds against France, who just saw their men's team lose to our men's team in a close but American-led game the day before. There were many interesting medals in sports that we normally do not medal in, and we need more of that in the future, something I will talk about a bit later. Our swimming dominance was challenged. The French superstar swimmer trained by Michael Phelps' coach had a good showing, but our team did add to our medal tally, so we cannot be disappointed, and Katie Ledecky had another strong showing, adding to her medal totals. Our track team did well, but some mishaps cost us in events that are usually an almost guaranteed gold for Team USA. And COVID may have humbled the world's fastest man and loudest talker, where he finished with a bronze in an event he probably would have won. Again, there will always be near misses and fuel for next time in every sporting event. The Olympics are no different, not just this year, but in the past as well. The goal is to win the medal count, the most golds, the most silvers, and the most bronze. We are not the only nation that wants this. We know we have to compete with the Chinese athletes that are well trained, compete with the Russian athletes as well when they are allowed to participate. So I think it is helpful to see not only areas where we came up short, but sports that we send athletes but are not really competitive. A major feat that I hope America does not allow to happen again was the Chinese diving team sweeping the gold medals. China has always been a world leader in diving, but we cannot stand aside and watch another nation sweep an entire category like that again. Our divers need to be able to break up the complete domination when the event is on our home turf. If we won any one of those diving categories, then we would have won the most gold medals in Paris. Another part of the potential for winning more medals and more golds in the future. Another great sport that Americans need to be better at is table tennis or ping pong. According to ESPN, the United States has never medaled at any Olympics in table tennis. So many households have ping pong tables and many bars. We need to break up the domination from other nations. We should at least get a medal in this sport. The Olympics gives out medals for spinning ribbons. I believe that falls under rhythmic gymnastics, which is another contest that Americans have not done particularly well in. I hope that we can put together a team to make a stronger push for a medal, as it will take place next on American soil. How cool would it be to win the overall gymnastics, the individual medals, and this one as well? Yes, this is just an intellectual effort to allow the United States to gain more medals. As I stated, I want to listen to nothing but the Star-Spangled Banner. The challenge is finding sports that we have never medaled or highly inconsistent in, and make our athletes more competitive. That is difficult, because some of the nations have infrastructure in place to develop talent in this space. The national camps like we hear about in Russia and China. But maybe we can have more domestic tournaments or competitions that raise the intensity and development. Maybe we could use our tech advantage and provide more insight and research and film study to help quantify what a gold medal performance might look like. See how we can meet that standard and eventually exceed it. Or at the very least, be in the conversation of competing for a medal. I have no doubt that some of the missed opportunities we saw in Paris will be cleaned up in Los Angeles, because being on home soil will undoubtedly raise the level of patriotism. Our beach volleyball program will rebound in Los Angeles, where we need to have gold medalists and silver medalists in both the men's and women's game. No more upsets. We had a great showing in Paris, but there is always an opportunity to build upon our success, not just rest on our laurels. We are Americans. Never complacent? The Olympics are a celebration of sport, but it is also a big event for business and the local economy. First, the business side. According to some estimates I read online, the average number of viewers tuning into NBC networks on a daily basis was around 32 million people. On top of that, there were between 6 to 8 million people watching daily on Peacock, the streaming service for NBC, and it was also the first Olympics with a live audience since 2018 in South Korea. That is a lot of eyes consistently in one space, a goldmine for global brands, primarily marketing leaders with big budgets and promotional teams to reach or engage with potential or current customer groups. Global brands like Coca-Cola, Visa, Samsung, and Deloitte all sponsor and advertise around the Olympics. Nike and Adidas are seen at every event, being the leading sports companies providing kits and sportswear. I also read that smaller startup brands were building marketing strategies around the Olympics. Some focused on leveraging social media or other digital strategies to connect with the audiences, even if they did not have the television budgets or athlete sponsorship. Not a bad strategy in a digital and social media-driven world. For a 2-week period, there is a considerable amount of revenue generated during this time period. Based on past Olympics, one could reasonably estimate that the economic activity will bring nearly $4.5 to $5 billion US. And who knows how much more for the brands that advertise, and the benefits come later on. Not bad for a 2-week and 2-day period, but the economic impact does not stop there. For that $4.5 to $5 billion in revenue, the host nations will spend well in excess of that. I saw an estimate that Paris budgeted $8 billion for the Olympics. The International Olympic Committee kicks in $1.7 billion. But the host city is largely responsible for the infrastructure and the bulk of the expenses. It is safe to say that the Olympics are not a profitable endeavor, unless you can save money by using existing infrastructure, like Paris did and Los Angeles did in the 80s, and will do once again in 4 years. Still, the economic impact is great, but not the good kind of great in many cases. Remember when Beijing hosted the Olympics in 2008? There were many great facilities built that eventually went unused for a long period of time until they were able to reuse them for the Winter Olympics 2 years ago. For many host cities, that is exactly the problem faced following the Olympics. Once the crowds are gone, the athletes return to their respective homes. The facilities, the Olympic Village, and more sit idle or unused. I read an article about how Montreal is still paying for maintenance on facilities that have not really been used since the 1972 Olympics. Same thing is happening in Rio almost a decade after it became the first South American city to host the Olympics. Still, there is an appeal to host the Olympics. In certain nations, the newly built infrastructure can be useful or transition for other purposes. Also, I think many cities want the prestige of being one that was selected to host an Olympics. The list is still very limited, considering the cities that are 2-time host cities. Is the prestige worth the prolonged financial burden? Maybe to some, maybe not for others. Does hosting the Olympics increase tourism over time that may be additional benefits not quantified? Possibly. But the complete economic picture is something that needs to be considered when bidding for the Games. For nations like the United States, Great Britain, Spain, Italy, or France, maybe bidding on the Games makes sense because you have sports leagues in each that could use the infrastructure, or have infrastructure that could offset the build requirements. For many others, there really needs to be a plan for the Olympics, and one for after the Games, after the people are no longer interested in seeing the facilities. Can the properties be repurposed to provide urban housing for revitalizing the area? Can the facilities become hubs of manufacturing, corporate centers, college campuses, or new communities? For many of these great arenas that hosted many memorable and historic performances, the worst fate for these is sitting empty until demolition. Rather, being used for any other purpose can really be a gold medal win for those communities and societies that captured the world's attention. A big thank you to all of you in the audience. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. The Paris Games are over. The memories will live on. The stories will continue to be told. And the world will move on to Los Angeles in 2028. Technically to Milan and Cortina, Italy in 2026 for the Winter Olympics. As we close this chapter in sports, I think we need to make sure that the Games have all sports like baseball and football. Baseball is already a global game, as proven with the popularity of the World Baseball Classic. Football is highly popular and some form of the game needs to be in the Olympics. The Olympics needs more sports. Let us be honest, if an event relies on a judge and involves predetermined scoring, then it is more of a contest than a sport. If 2 athletes or teams compete and their performances against one another determines the outcome, then it is a sport. I think that contests should remain in the Olympics. I get the whole argument that the performance still dictates the score, as deductions reduce the actual outcomes, and judges may go higher. There still is entertainment and athletic value in that, and many of the feats are impressive. I do like to watch gymnastics and other contests. But if breakdancing, especially the kind that the Australian Olympic team is offering, can remain an Olympic sport, then baseball and football of some kind can be an Olympic sport. Those are sports, ones that are global games and can become globally competitive faster than we think. Baseball already is. I hope everyone enjoyed the Olympics. Looks like Paris did an overall good job of hosting, except for controversies regarding the slights against Christianity. But the games were good, and now the Summer Games are coming back to America in Los Angeles, California. The next Winter Games, which is the next Olympics, will take place in Italy, hosted by both Milan and Cortina as Milano Cortina. Thank you for experiencing this special episode. Please further the Christopher Peter Review on social media, and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.